Awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And thank you so much for caring about our kids. So, as you heard, I'm Paige Parks. I'm the Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count. And Marion has already shared our mission statement and said it in such a powerful way. And this is what we live by. Our mission is our heartbeat. And I'm so glad that so many of you are here today to learn more about that mission, to see how that mission fits into what's happening in the country and in our state, and what we can all do about it together. So, is this microphone still working? Still okay? All right, awesome. All right, so, Marion said we talk about all kids, and we do. We are a statewide children's policy and advocacy organization, and we focus on all the cities and towns. We report and aggregate data on every city and town, but we do spend additional time focusing on what we call the 4 core cities. That's Central Falls, Pawtucket, Providence, and Woonsocket. Because these are the communities with the highest percentage of children of color, which is 59% of all of our children of color in the state live in those 4 cities. And it's also the cities with high percentages of children living in poverty. So 65% of all of our kids living in poverty are in those 4 core cities. So we also, how we do our work is we provide, I'm going to do like this fancy thing, I'm going to throw my papers around. So we provide information on child well-being. Part of our role is also stimulating dialogue, like we are tonight, about children's issues. And we promote accountability and action across all policy areas. We are nonpartisan. We are a nonprofit organization. We are not employed or funded by the state of Rhode Island. And we are not a part of the Rhode Island Foundation, even though we share an office building with them. And many people think we are this huge organization, but we're not. We are a small team of incredibly strong women, and we get things done. We see our work as systems change. To tell you a little bit more about us, we are former teachers, we're former direct service providers, we are former researchers, and we are all mission driven. We are people of color, you're immigrants, we are multilingual, and we have intersecting identities. We are daughters, we are mothers, and we are grandmothers. We were once those little people that we are devoted to helping today. We are bright, we are brilliant, and we are confident women. And we want to impact systems, we want to change systems, and it's true, we want to smash some systems too. And we have found our way of changing the world. 210,000 kids at a time. And that's what we do at Rhode Island Kids Count. So I would love to introduce my team today. I hope you spend some time getting to know them today, because I am a huge fan of every member of our team, and I am so honored to work with them. So Kelsey Bala is over here. Read Kelsey. She is our Senior Policy Associate for Youth Justice, Child Welfare, and Education. Jennifer Capaldo. Where's Jennifer? Probably hiding somewhere. Jennifer, hiding in the back. She's our Project and Technology Coordinator. Michaela Carroll is our Health Policy Associate. Wilsa Galarza is our Executive Assistant and Office Manager and Special Events Amazing Extraordinaire, who put together our event today. Thank you, Wilsa. Stephanie Geller is our Deputy Director. Maria Guevara is our Finance Director. You probably met her walking in today. Katie Linwood is our Communications Manager. I'm going to tell you to put your name tag off for pictures. So we love Katie. Jennifer Stout, she's not here today. She is really ill. She's our newest member of our team. She is our senior data manager. Jessica Vega. She's our senior advisory and community engagement manager. And lastly, not here with us today because she's actually on a plane right now leaving from Seattle, where she was at our early childhood advocates meeting, and that's Leanne Barrett. She's our director of early childhood policy and strategy. So that's our amazing team. We also have an incredible board, as I'm sure you can tell, led by our fearless leader, our board chair, Marion Orr. We have J.L. Lopes as our vice chair. Olga Varsogova, who is our treasurer. And Dr. Phyllis Dennery, who is our secretary, who flew in from D.C. like an hour ago to be here. Naomi Barrett. Karen Davis. Luisa Murillo. Tanisha Cello. Jim Vincent. And Marisa Albanese. And we also want to send a very big thank you to our board member Greg Perry for hosting today. We also want to thank the other members of the Perry group for letting us use your space, letting us brainstorm with you about this event. Thank you so much. To Katie, who is Greg's wonderful daughter there, who is our bartender. Thank you, Katie. Edmund Molina, he is the maintenance person here, staying extra late to allow us to be here today, so thank you. And also, we had an awesome crew of volunteers who came in early today to help us set up. That's Catherine, Patricio, and Mariana. Thank you so much to them. So I'd like to know more about who's in the room. So you know about us, but who are you all? So just shout out to me. Who are you, and what brings you here? What's your, oh, everyone's getting quiet.
Pass the microphone around, Paige.
So my name is Charles Hawley, and I'm here by the invitation of Marion Orr. I call him Dr. Orr. And we actually go to church together, but more importantly, I am the CFO of South Coast Community Foundation. And he brought me here because I'm a financial individual, and he brought me here to learn more about Kids Count.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Charles, for being here.
Anyone else? Thank you, Charles. Anyone else want to tell us who you are?
I'll tell you who I am.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Have you met me? Here I am. And I'm here by the gracious invitation by Paige, because I'm the founder and executive director of the Empowerment Factory, and we benefit from all the work that you do because we believe in empowering elementary children with the skills to be successful in school and life, and we serve Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls with in-person programming, and then our online program reaches all of Rhode Island. And it really takes a village, and you are such a leader. You have so much grace and so much poise, and every time I hear you speak, it makes me go, yeah! And I wish I had a big wallet to be like, here you go! Because without the work that you're doing, I wouldn't have as many statistics to tell people who may not realize that if we don't empower and advocate for the children of today, we are not going to have a community and a workforce and the kind of village we want to live in tomorrow. And so I am very humbled and pleased to be here, and thank you for everything that you do. And you know, we can only really make a difference if we do it all together, because collaboration is key. So thank you. I love you,
Thank you, Gail. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you do. And Gail mentioned the data. So that's our fact book that we produce every year. The annual Rhode Island Kids Count fact book provides a statistical portrait of Rhode Island's children. It's the most comprehensive data set. And thank you for sharing that, because the team is starting to work on the 2025 fact book, and woo, it is hard work. So every time we hear how people are using the fact book, it's great motivation for us.
Right behind you.
Our first indicator.
We just finished our first indicator. Woo woo! 69 more to go. Yes. Do we have one more person to say?
I saw everyone like eyeing me, wondering who I was and why I was here. Etta Zasloff from the South County League of Women Voters. And I just want to tell you that we are here to protect voting rights for everyone. And please keep that on your radar. We do use your data, and especially like how you break it out by town. We have a lot of small towns in southern Rhode Island, and that's our source for our information when we argue for a case or write for grants or, do a lot of different activities. So, I don't know if you remember me, Paige.
I remember you, of course, because they emailed you. And Etta and I first met at one of the Providence Public Libraries, a community library,
Yes.
where I spoke on a panel.
Right,
And then we communicated by email,
right.
and so happy that you're here today.
happy
Thank
to
you
be
for
with
being
you.
here.
Sure.
And that's exactly what we do as a community, right? We see each other out, everyone doing their own work, and when we come together and bring all of our efforts together, we're extremely powerful. So thank you everyone for being here and letting us know a little bit more about you. So when we first thought about this event, we really didn't know what the election results were going to be. We didn't know what kind of feel we would have. We didn't even know if we would know the results at the time of this event.
Should ask me after the
Marion would have seen.
No, I'm kidding.
But, we have landed in a post-election time that many folks had feared. So, I'm just going to say this and be very clear. We are a nonpartisan organization. And we will work with any party, any policymaker that works for the betterment of children and families and advances equity. So this discussion is not about parties or political leanings. No. This is about campaign promises and our children. Be very clear. So, let's begin talking about it. Let's talk about local first. So for the local election results, I want to talk about Providence Public Schools and the school board election. So this was the first election for the school board since 1966. Wow. Long time it's been. And the city elected 5 school board members. They're Corey Jones, Michelle Lee Fontes, Heidi Silverio, Maria Mendoza, and Tyrell Stevens. And Tyrell Stevens is the only existing current member of the school board who is returning in that elected seat. And Mayor Smiley is also going to take nominations, so he can put 4 members on the school board. He's accepting applications now and nominations now. If you or anyone you know is interested, that time period is now. So although Providence Public Schools is still under state control, and the school board kind of serves as a consultancy type of body right now, the state has said that within the next 3 years, they plan to return the district back to local control. So the school board's role is going to be very important, especially their role in having a smooth transition. So those are some seats, especially locally, for anyone who cares about Providence, which should be everyone, right, to really be looking at the school board.
Is there a residency requirement?
Yes, there's a residency requirement. Yeah, good question, Mark. Okay, statewide elections. There really wasn't much change statewide. There was no major upsets. There are some new members of the General Assembly, and we're looking forward to working with them, but no major shocking changes there. The Speaker of the House is still Speaker Joe Sakarchi, and Senate President Ruggiero still in their same positions. And our federal delegation is all the same. So not any huge major changes there. But then if we go to the big election, this is all why we're here, right? Mm-hmm. You guys didn't want to talk about local Lincoln elections? What happened in Foster? Mm-hmm. No, it's the presidential election, right? Mm-hmm. That really brings us together today. What are some things that is on your mind? What issues or topics are on your mind? as we go into this second term of a Trump presidency? Hi, Katie.
I'm deeply concerned about immigrant children, families of mixed status. Knowing what happened at the border in 2018, I am just deeply concerned about that currently.
Deeply concerned about our immigrant children.
Yes.
Children in mixed status families.
Yes.
Thanks, Katie. Anyone else?
I'm deeply concerned about how the children who were taken out of poverty in the last administration, although that did go backwards a little bit, but how bad that will be in terms of allocation of resources for Medicaid and other things. We made great progress with women, postpartum, and a year's worth of Medicaid support. And I'm worried that there might be a swing back.
Swing back on Medicaid.
When I hear rumors that they want to get rid of the Department of Education, it's like, please tell me I'm dreaming, that this is a nightmare and not reality, because that defies logic.
We're going to talk about all these issues today. Any others?
Voting rights.
Voting rights.
Voting rights, voter suppression, gerrymandering, all of those are, as we go forward, are going to require a lot more effort and activism on our part.
A lot more effort and activism for voting rights. Yes.
I'm worried about kids that are transgender and in danger at home, or what their care is going to look like, and if they're safe in school.
Our trans kids. Thank you.
Funding for Medicaid, special education, Title I, you name it.
Yeah. Very real concern. Any other more?
Yeah, I think one of the things that happened in the first Trump administration was a lot of the federal grants. I work for Mentor Rhode Island, and a lot of the federal grants around mentoring are through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and there was pretty much an inability to talk about justice issues, like social justice issues, equity issues, things like that. So I have concerns that there'll be a regression to that, scenes that when 2020 rolled around and George Floyd and all of those things happened, there was such a focus on that, and a lot of the grants and programs focus on that restorative justice now, and will that, not be allowed anymore by the federal departments?
Okay. And we are going to touch on all of those issues. And those are all very real and valid concerns. So, childcare. Anyone also concerned about childcare, early learning? So we'll start there. So as many of us know, families really depend on childcare. Right? Childcare allows families to go to work, and it also gives children really valuable educational experiences before they start going to school. But the high cost of childcare is a huge burden on families. Childcare is the biggest living expense for most families. So does anyone know or want to guess what the median income is in Rhode Island? Take a guess.
41,000.
41,000.
60,000.
36,000.
36,000. Doing a little bit better than that.
50?
50,000. Feels like it, right? So the median income in Rhode Island is actually $104,000.
What?
Yeah. But don't forget, our expenses are extremely high in Rhode Island. Okay? But there's also huge disparities by race and ethnicity in Rhode Island. So an Asian family makes about $116,000 annually median, also recognizing there are huge disparities within the Asian population ethnicity. It's actually the largest income gap that you'll see in an ethnic group is within the Asian community. So when I say 116,000, just know it's very different for Southeast Asian families than what their median income is. For a white family, it's just under $114,000 a year. For a black family, just under $83,000 a year. Hispanic family, $57,000. And for a Native American family, just under $45,000 a year. In order to afford childcare, a Rhode Island family will need to earn $197,000 a year to afford the annual cost of one, just one, infant in a licensed childcare center. So, childcare is not affordable for most Rhode Islanders, right? Many Rhode Islanders, or low-income Rhode Islanders, rely on a program called the Child Care Assistance Program. It provides assistance to help make childcare more affordable. 90% of the funding for that program, guess where it comes from? The federal government. Our state's only paying 10%. 90% come from the federal government. And this is why we are very concerned about Donald Trump's presidency and his commitment for child care. So here's what we know. From the tail end of his campaign, Trump expressed that child care is needed and that he would make it more affordable. For folks who may have watched that interview, it was like, child care, we need it. Chinese tariffs, child care, we gotta have it. But that's not really understanding what the plan was. We don't know what the plan is. But all we have is that very small expression mentioning of child care. For early learning. So early learning programs, high quality early learning programs can improve a child's cognitive and social emotional development and also helps them when they get into school. And we see that learning disabilities and disparities appear early and grow over time. And without access to the enriching early childhood experiences, the gaps widen. However, without government funding, children from low-income families and Black and Latino families would have less access to high-quality preschool. One of those programs is Head Start. So Head Start is federally funded. It's a comprehensive early childhood program for preschool-aged children ages 3 to 5. And it's for low-income children or children that have special needs. Also, it's a great support program for families because they provide wraparound services to all Head Start families. In October of 2023, in Rhode Island, we had just under 1,400 kids enrolled in a Head Start program, and there was 336 eligible children waiting for a spot in Head Start. So Head Start, much like our child care programs, are also facing a workforce crisis. There is more need and demand than there are educators to fill the classrooms. So during his campaign, Trump didn't say much about Head Start, but we can look at maybe what he did in his first presidency. So in 2019, Trump proposed a $29 billion cut over 10 years to Head Start. That was a 25% reduction he had proposed. And in his proposed 2018 budget, he had proposed cutting child care and early education, including reducing the budget for Head Start by $85 million. And also a reduction of $95 million in the federal block grant called the Child Care Development Block Grant, which Rhode Island relies on heavily. Luckily, the Congress at that time did not pass his proposed budget. However, we can be concerned. Project 2025, which was written by many of his advisors, called for the elimination of Head Start. So that's something we're watching for. Children's health. We mentioned health as one of the concerns. One of ours too. So health insurance coverage. We all know it's extremely important, right? And our logic and the research tells us that when children have health insurance coverage, they're healthier. No idea, right? Fewer preventable hospitalizations when children have health insurance coverage. And in Rhode Island, our Medicaid program for kids called Right Care, and we also have a CHIP program that stands for Children's Health Insurance Program. And these two programs together increase access for low-income families to important, valuable health care needs. In Rhode Island, almost 2/3 of our young children under the age of 3 are enrolled in right care. Let me say that again. I didn't say 2/3 of low-income kids. 2/3 of all of our kids under the age of 3 are enrolled in right care. Children who are in right care and in CHIP receive primary and preventative medical and dental care. They have access to specialists. They have fewer unmet health needs, and won't be surprised, have better outcomes in school. And these programs also reduce racial and ethnic disparities we see in access to health care. And we also know that if parents have health insurance, their children are also likely to have health insurance. Something for us to brag about is that at Rhode Island, we do pretty good with our children's health insurance coverage rates. So in 2022, Rhode Island was ranked second best in the country for our children being covered. 97.9% of our kids had health insurance coverage. That's something we are all really proud of. And thanks to the advocacy and the leadership of Rhode Island Kids Count and many of our partners, we passed the Cover All Kids Act, which allows income eligible children to have right care regardless of their immigration status. So we're so excited about that. Trump, you're gonna hit a lot. Trump, he campaigned on a promise to end Obamacare, which, if successful, would devastate many low-income families in Rhode Island. We also anticipate he may cut the rates for Medicaid as well. And these cuts would not only devastate the families and the providers who offer the service, but it will also greatly impact our state's budget. We rely on those rate matches from the federal government. So that is something we are concerned about. And what does a Trump win mean for youth justice, as Mark mentioned? This one's a tough one for me. So, kids who are involved in the juvenile justice system, oftentimes it's the community environment in which they are around that leads them into those situations. And it's individual, peer, school, there's community factors, having a learning disability, living in poverty, experiencing family violence, exposure to crime. Those all increase our youth's risk of being involved in the juvenile justice system. One thing we often don't think about is that the youth justice system's responsibility is actually to promote positive youth development. That's not what we think of, but that's actually the mission of what youth justice work is supposed to be. So in 2023, in Rhode Island, as in the rest of the country, there are large disparities in the youth who are impacted by the youth justice system. In Rhode Island in 2023, Black youth were 11 times more likely to be in the Rhode Island Training School, which is our youth detention center, compared to white youth. And over 3 times more likely compared to youth of all races. Reform efforts for youth justice, believe this or not, it has been a bipartisan issue. Reforms in youth justice have historically been a bipartisan issue. Before Trump's first term, states and cities across the country were closing youth prisons and moving more towards community-based alternatives to incarceration and using restorative justice and diversion interventions. So the Annie A. Casey Foundation, which is one of our funders, has a Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative. It's called JDAI. And what this initiative does is it works with jurisdictions all across the country to promote policies and practices that reduce inappropriate and unnecessary secure detention, to reduce racial and ethnic disparities, and while also maintaining public safety. So JDAI focuses on creating opportunities for positive youth development through proven family-focused interventions. I am really proud that Rhode Island Kids Count is actually the convener of Rhode Island's JDAI group, led by Ms. Kelsey Bala. And we have been coordinating reform efforts statewide. to decrease disparities and to increase use of community-based interventions. At the federal level, so Mark mentioned this, at the federal level, there is the U.S. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. It's called OJJDP. And under this federal office, they sponsor programs to prevent and respond to juvenile delinquency and victimization and to improve juvenile justice systems. And Rhode Island Kids Count has been a partner with the U.S. OJJDP for several years. And I am so excited that just a few weeks ago, OJJDP featured our latest publication on youth-centered experiences in the juvenile justice system and youth solutions to eliminating those disparities. So if you go on their social media, you'll see the report right there. If you go on the website, you'll see our report there. Again, written by our Kelsey Bala. So excited about that. So we are serving as a national model. But during Trump's first term, as Mark mentioned, OJJDP, the federal office, was directed to remove any references to treating and rehabilitation of young people from its website. They also relaxed the reporting requirements that are required to help identify any kind of racial or ethnic disparities in youth involvement in the juvenile justice system. And because those reporting requirements were relaxed, it's hard to be able to identify the root causes for those disparities. So it's my prediction that in a couple of months, when Trump takes office, our report's probably going to be taken down from the website. So go look at it now, download it now while you can. But we're really concerned that this forward progress that we're trying to make to help our young people, and we know our young people who are disproportionately children of color, going from a system of restoration and alternatives back to the hard, punitive, law and order form of youth justice. You also talked about education, right? So what does this win mean for education? So we all know, in Rhode Island and across the country, there are large disparities on who has access to high quality public education and high quality opportunities. So in Rhode Island, on October 1st, 2023, there were just over 136,000 kids in our public school system. Of these students, 44% were low income, 49% were children of color, and 3% were multilingual. So Trump has stated, as Gail had mentioned, that in his presidency he would abolish the U.S. Department of Education, that he would end Title I funding, which is federal funding for low-income students, and special education, and would withhold federal funds for woke schools. So, right, the gasp there. Any decrease in federal education dollars would impact all schools in Rhode Island, and it would be extremely devastating to our low-income school districts that receive anywhere from 12 to 17% of their budget from the federal government. So this brings us to equity. What does this mean for equity in the Trump administration? So Rhode Island is very diverse. We are beautifully diverse, and that is such an incredible asset to our state. And our kids are very diverse. In 2020, in Rhode Island, 47% of our children under the age of 18 were people of color. In 2022, 29% of our kids lived in immigrant families, which is higher than that US rate. In 2023, 17.5% of our kids identified as lesbian, gay, or bisexual, and 4% identified as transgender. So in Rhode Island and all across the country, these populations, we see the largest disparities in outcomes for these groups. And it's not because of who the kids are. We know that. Right? It's because of the long history of discrimination in our policies and practices that have produced those outcomes. And if we really want to have equal access to opportunities, then you need an equitable approach. That means you need to identify the unique barriers that are holding certain populations back and do everything you can to remove those barriers so that there is truly equality. So Donald Trump has campaigned on an anti-equity messaging and has vowed to remove federal funding from programs that teach diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this messaging has been harmful to the mental health of many people of color. His anti-immigrant rhetoric has struck fear in immigrant communities, and the anti-trans crusade threatens the safety and mental health of our transgender youth. Ending or eliminating federal funds for programs that are helping these kids, our kids, succeed is just unacceptable. We need these programs that teach diversity in our K-12 public school system, in our higher education system. Our government employees need to be trained to be able to respond and meet the needs of our growing diverse population. And this would impact so many systems and all of our communities. So, with these type of policy views, the local work becomes even more important. So yesterday, I actually was sitting with Congressman Magaziner, and I said, "How you feeling?" And he said, "This is why your work is so important now. Your work is so important at the state level, because that's where we're going to get our protections." And the Trump administration does lean heavily on states' rights. So it's up to us to put our energy and our efforts into protecting equity in our state. So the good news is that we've been doing that work. We've been doing this for a long time already. And we have some great protections in place due to many of the people in this room, right? So just in the most recent years, we have secured additional funding for our growing multilingual learner student population. We have health insurance protections, including prohibitions on lifetime limits and denial of coverage due to pre-existing conditions, and Medicaid coverage for all income-eligible children. We have passed the, yes, hi, hello, Rep. So one of our folks who helped pass Cover All Kids, David Morales, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your work. We wouldn't be able to have these protections if it weren't for the champions in the General Assembly. Thank you. We've also had the passage of equality in the Abortion Coverage Act, which provides access to life-saving health services for women, and also provides equal access to folks on Medicaid and who are state employees, which is access that private insurers already have. We also have the passage of the Trauma-Informed Schools Act that recognizes the trauma that many of our young people face and requires all schools to be trauma-informed. And we have passed really important safe gun regulations and rules. And I want to give a shout out to the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence and Melissa for all the work you have done putting these protections in place. Thank you. So we must continue the work. And we need to be even bolder in our work. And here's why, right? We know that the Trump administration is going to not make it easy for us to do our work at the state level. The administration will ignite fear. But also, don't be falsely comfortable that you're in Rhode Island, this blue state. Did you want to look at the actual voting? 43% of Rhode Island voters wanted Trump's agenda. 43%. It's So don't feel cozy, comfortable. We have work to do at the state level. Okay. So there are some simple things you can do. Things you can do right away. First thing you do is go to our website. Go to rikidscount.org. Sign up for our e-news so that you know what's going on and stay connected with folks who are doing action. Follow us on social media. We are on all of the platforms, so follow us, including TikTok. Make a video. Yeah. Also, prepare yourself with some facts, right? Arm yourself with information. So please go to our website. You can download all of our publications for free, including the Rhode Island Kids Count Fact Book. All of that data on kids is there. If you'd like a hard copy of the fact book, we do have some for sale here out in the front lobby, so you can walk with that, learn that, pass it out, give it to people. You can also join a campaign. So Rhode Island Kids Count is the coordinator of the Right from the Start campaign. That is led by 8 organizations that are advocating for budgetary investments and policies for early childhood. And the Raising Rhode Island Coalition, which has 60 plus organizations, faith-based leaders, and direct service providers, all working to end deep child poverty through improvement to our cash assistance program. Other things you could do is if you look around the room and you see someone that's not here that should be, introduce them to us. Bring them to Rhode Island Kids Count events. Tell me who they are. I'd love to go meet them. We need more people joining us to do this work. Rhode Island kids need Rhode Island Kids Count to be strong, right? They need us to be bold. They need us to be persistent. They need us at the State House every single day reminding policymakers about kids. But we cannot do that. We cannot be that without you. We need you. And we hope that by the end of this evening that you join us in this work. So funding is really important. So we have a lot of grants. We have stretched every grant dollar there is. But the work ahead of us is larger than it has ever been. And we are going to need the support of the community to keep us going, to bring us to the next level. If you support us with your donations, that would allow us to be strong, especially when Trump is trying to make us weak. You will allow us to keep using that word, equity, even when the Supreme Court instills fear in our funders and in foundations. You will let us keep using that word, keep fighting and advancing equity. You will get us through this, and we together will get our kids through this. And giving. We're asking you to please consider giving today. You can help us give voice. So it costs us about $100 when we want to give a stipend to a young person or a parent for sharing their very deep personal stories about how they're impacted by the policies that are in our state. We provide them with stipends for that. So if you want to help us give voice, please consider a donation of $100. We also need help giving access. So it's about $250 when we provide translation and interpretation services for our multilingual youth, parents, and childcare providers. We need them there. We need them in meetings. We need them in focus groups. We need them at press conferences. But they need access to the language. So a donation of $250 allows us to have those interpretation services available. You can help us give leadership. So as I mentioned, Leanne's on the plane coming in from Seattle. I came in today from DC. Our team is traveling all over the country because we are considered national leaders in this work. But that isn't free. We incur our own expenses to have other states learning from us. So giving leadership, a gift of $500, allows us to continue to be national leaders and to be on national coalitions. You can give the gift of truth. So a donation of $1,000 helps us keep our data free and accessible to the public. We are not hiding data, we're giving it away. So donations of $1,000 allows us to continue to do that. And help us give power. We need to build power, give power to our communities. Donations of $1,500 allows us to lead coalitions that are bringing in lived experience into the State House. And we need your support. And we're actually asking for some champions today. So a champion for equity. If you can make your donation a recurring annual donation for the next 4 years. Because for the next 4 years, we will have Trump-inspired policies being introduced at the state level. What you may not know is a lot of those anti-equity bills are tested first in small states like Rhode Island. They introduce bills, they bring them to Rhode Island, they see what the reaction will be, and then it is shared across the country. Guess who shows up to make sure those bills aren't passed? Guess who shows up and tells community, hey, guess what? There's a horrible bill that's not going to let you teach about diversity and equity.
Keith County.
That's us.
Am I right?
That's us. And for the next 4 years, more and more and more of those bills are going to end up at the State House. With your annual contribution, that allows us to keep going. So we ask you to please consider being a champion for equity. And then the last thing is we have a new donation level. We're calling it Paige's Circle. Come join my circle. So any donation of $5,000 or more makes you a member of this circle. And members will receive invited, private, and confidential sessions where I can talk to you about our State House strategy, talk to you about our policy priorities. So you can help us think through some of these things. Be the first to know what our end game is and how we're getting there. Also, members of the circle will have the first access to purchase tickets to our events. Our events sell out. Our Kids Count Breakfast, 500 seats, sells out. I've gotten texts from some of you the night before, hey, I didn't get a ticket, can I get a ticket? And I'm like, sorry, I can't get you a ticket. But our members that are in the circle will have first access to those tickets and have special reserved seating at our events. And I will also invite our circle members to join us on some national calls. We'd love for you to see what's happening on the national level and how Kids Count fits into that. So please consider a donation today. And I'm going to end with this. If you're like us, that means you have some strong beliefs. If you're like us, you believe that childhood should be a joyful time in your life. You also believe that every child is worthy and deserving of love. If you're like us, you believe in facts and truth. You also believe and encourage bold leadership. And if you're like us, you know racism does exist and it needs to be dismantled. And you also believe you have the power to create change. So if that is you, I ask you to please join us. Please donate, and let's get this done. Thank you, everyone.